If 13-year-old you made a time machine and came to visit you today for 24 hours, what would you do with them? I tell M to teach how he built the fucking time machine, 'cause I tried when I was 13 and I failed. When I was 13, I didn't have a lot of friends, so I think I would have appreciated a guy just being my friend. Maybe take me out for wings and a hockey game. 13-year-old me would have loved that. Then I would sit him down and give him a harsh talking to on why he had no friends. Wonder why the fuck I'm not filthy rich now because I invented a fucking time machine when I was 13. Tell them to look at the same fucking post from yesterday. Murder them, probably. I would tell them that everything is going to be okay, I'm not a bad kid. I would tell myself to tell my parents to sell the house, move to a cheaper area to live with a less competitive high school so my performance would stand out better. I would tell myself that I'm not going to die at 23 and that college exists and that's why grades matter. Then I would tell Lil me that I love them and I love myself and I am here for them and ask what is needed. Lots of love and gentleness because she's hurting a lot. Tell them to spend more time with a few people who are no longer here for me now. Steal my time machine to go back in time and buy a ton of Bitcoin when that was still dirt cheap. Tell them about cryptocurrency so they can invest in Bitcoin when they go back. Give her a big hug and tell her her school and home problems are not her fault and this is not indicative of the adult world at all. That it's just a phase of her life where everyone around her is acting like an asshole. I'd tell her that she's prettier than she thinks, smarter than she thinks, more charismatic than she thinks. Get him laid. That's all he wanted back then. Give them a hug and tell them to support mom, even if she gets on your nerves. Edit, maybe also slap myself while I'm at it lol. Play video games together. 13-year-old me was pretty lonely and would have loved someone to play video games with. Invest in Bitcoin but then sell in 2018. Spend some time with your great uncle. If my 13-year-old self had invented a time machine this would have already happened to me when I was 13, as I have no recollection of this occurrence, it either will never happen or I forgot. Now if it did happen and I forgot, that opens up a lot of new questions. I would take her to the beach because despite living 10 minutes from one she has never been. I would feed her and tell her that she is beautiful and not to worry because the man she met that year is going to one day soon be her husband. That he keeps his promises and always will, that he unlike everyone else will never hurt her. I would tell her not to sleep over that night at her friend's because even though it's her best friend and her dad it won't be worth it. I would tell her that in a few years when mom starts having you sleep with the men of the house to not pay rent or to get food, that she doesn't have to and she can save that for her husband who is the best thing that will ever happen to her. I would tell her that she is worth more than just what her body can give. I would tell her to not even start cutting because one day our wonderful daughter will ask what those scars are and we don't lie to our daughter. I would tell her to never stop teaching herself gymnastics and to never listen to what your brother or dad say. That she won't have to deal with their physically, emotionally, or sexually abuse much longer. I would tell her it gets better and when. I would tell her how happy I am now and I would tell her to never try to kill herself because if she succeeded she wouldn't have the beautiful family I have now. I would tell her she is worth the world and God and I love her so much and now so does her 3 kids and her husband. I'll tell her she is loved in a real way and she's not being hurt anymore. Then I would send her back with some money and food and tell her to keep fighting because one day you won't have to anymore. Spoil endgame. Explain to him all the retarded things I've done since 13 so he can avoid them, and show him all the great music I've discovered since then. First off, I'd make them something good to eat. I know they need it. Then I would explain to them that just because every adult around them are racist and homophobic, that doesn't make the views and behavior right. Save them from being such an asshole and so much self-loathing. The rest of the time, I would just take them to do some fun things around town, as I now live in a different country, that my 13-year-old self would find amazing. Tell him to go back without doing anything. Every single action that I have taken, Every mistake I have made has made a better person. I wouldn't want to take that away from him.